A cold wind moved slowly through the snowy streets of the quiet city. It was late night, yet the sky looked almost like daytime because the moon was glowing so brightly. The snow on the sidewalks reflected the light of thousands of small stars, making the whole street shimmer like silver. Street lamps lined the road, their warm light blending with the moonlight. Cars passed quietly. In the distance, tall glass office buildings and cozy houses stood side by side, their windows glowing softly. And right there, under that glowing sky, a moment was about to happen that would change many lives forever. A man walked slowly along the snowy sidewalk. His name was Daniel Carter, a 34-year-old single father. He wore dark pants, a white shirt, and a charcoal blazer that was slightly wrinkled from exhaustion. Snowflakes rested on his shoulders as he walked. His face looked pale but calm, his brown hair slightly messy, his tired eyes focused ahead. In his arms, he carried a small boy wrapped carefully in a warm blanket. The boy was Oliver, his 5-year-old son. Oliver had soft blonde hair and bright blue eyes, but tonight those eyes looked sleepy and weak. Daniel held him gently, protecting him from the cold wind. The two walked slowly toward the glowing entrance of a hospital at the end of the street. What no one passing by knew was that Daniel had only one final wish left in his heart, and the person he was about to ask had no idea that her answer would lead to something completely unbelievable. Inside the hospital, the bright white lights mixed with the moonlight shining through tall glass windows. Nurses moved quietly through the halls. Doctors reviewed charts. The air smelled of medicine and warm coffee from the staff lounge. Daniel pushed open the glass door and stepped inside, his shoes leaving wet marks from the snow. At the reception desk stood a young nurse. Her name was Emily Watson. She was 29 years old, wearing a neat light blue nurse uniform and white sneakers. Her dark brown hair was tied in a simple ponytail. She had kind hazel eyes and a calm face that always seemed to comfort patients. She looked up as Daniel approached. But before we continue, if you love emotional, powerful stories like this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to Deep Night Stories. Your support helps bring more unforgettable stories just like this one. Now, back to that night. Emily noticed Daniel immediately. He looked exhausted, yet determined. The small boy in his arms stirred slightly, blinking slowly. Daniel stopped in front of the desk. For a moment he didn't speak. Emily gently stepped closer. "Sir, are you okay? Do you need help?" Daniel looked at her quietly, then slowly nodded. His voice was calm but fragile. "I'm not here for treatment. I just need to ask you something." Emily was confused but patient. Daniel carefully adjusted the blanket around Oliver. "My son doesn't have much time left." Emily's heart tightened. Daniel continued softly. "I promised him one last thing, but I can't do it alone." Emily leaned slightly closer, listening. Daniel's words came slowly. "He wants to experience what it feels like to have a family again." Emily blinked, confused. Daniel explained. Oliver's mother had passed away 2 years earlier in an accident. Since then, Daniel had raised him alone. But months ago, doctors discovered a rare illness. Treatments had failed. Time was running out. Oliver had asked a simple question one night. "Dad, what's it like when someone takes care of you the way Mom did?" Daniel didn't know how to answer. Then Oliver said something that broke his heart. "I wish, just for one day, I could see you happy again." Daniel looked at Emily. "My final wish is to give him one perfect day where he feels like we're a real family again." Emily stood still. Daniel continued quietly. "I know it sounds strange, but would you help me pretend to be his mom for one day?" Silence filled the hospital lobby. Emily looked down at Oliver. The small boy's eyes opened slightly. He looked at her with gentle curiosity, not expecting anything, just quietly hoping. Emily felt something shift in her chest. She knelt slowly so she was closer to Oliver. "Hi, Oliver." The boy smiled weakly. "Hi." Emily stood again and looked at Daniel. Snow continued falling outside the windows. Finally, she said softly, "Yes." Daniel blinked. "You'll help us?" Emily nodded gently. "For one day, we'll give him the happiest day of his life." The next morning arrived with soft golden light reflecting off the snowy city. The moon had faded, but the bright sky and snow still made everything shine. Daniel stood outside a small, cozy house on a quiet street. He wore the same dark pants, white shirt, and charcoal blazer. Emily walked up the snowy path toward him. Today, she wore a warm, cream-colored coat over a modern soft blue sweater, dark jeans, and winter boots. Her hair was loose today, instead of tied back. For the first time, she didn't look like a nurse. She looked like part of a family. Daniel opened the door. Inside the living room, Oliver sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket. When he saw Emily walk in beside Daniel, his eyes lit up. "Dad, is she coming with us?" Daniel smiled gently. "Yes, buddy." Emily stepped closer. "Good morning, Oliver." Oliver's smile grew wider. The three of them stepped outside into the snowy street. Slowly they walked together. First they visited a small restaurant on the corner. Warm lights glowed inside. Snow clung to the windows. Inside, they sat at a wooden table. Emily helped Oliver hold his hot chocolate carefully. Daniel watched quietly. Oliver laughed softly for the first time in weeks. Later they walked through a snowy park. The moon slowly began rising again as evening approached, glowing bright above the city like a giant lantern. The snow sparkled under its light. Daniel helped Oliver build a tiny snowman, while Emily clapped softly beside them. For those few hours, Oliver forgot about hospitals. He just felt like a child again. Then something unexpected happened. As they walked through the park, Oliver suddenly tugged Daniel's sleeve. "Dad, can we take a picture?" Daniel nodded. Emily stood beside them. A passerby took the photo, Daniel holding Oliver, Emily beside them. Three people smiling under a glowing moon in the snow. Later that night they returned home. Oliver lay in bed. Emily sat beside him. Daniel stood near the window. Oliver looked at both of them. Today felt real. Emily gently brushed his hair. It was real. Oliver whispered something softly. "Thank you, Mom." Emily froze. Daniel slowly turned away, hiding tears. Oliver closed his eyes peacefully. Within minutes, he fell asleep. The next morning, something surprising happened. Oliver woke up, and for the first time in weeks, he asked for breakfast. Doctors later said something they could barely explain. His condition had stabilized. Days passed. Then weeks. Oliver slowly grew stronger. The impossible seemed to be happening, and the moment that changed everything came 3 months later. Daniel stood once again in that same snowy park, under the bright moon. But this time, he wasn't alone. Emily stood beside him. Oliver ran through the snow ahead of them, laughing loudly. Daniel looked at Emily. "You didn't just help me grant a wish." He paused. "You saved our lives." Emily smiled softly. Sometimes, the most unbelievable miracles begin with something simple. One small act of kindness, one moment of compassion, and one nurse who said yes when she could have walked away. Because that night, under a moon bright as the sun, a broken father, a dying child, and a kind nurse discovered something powerful. Hope can appear when you least expect it, and sometimes a pretend family becomes a real one.